Now, another thing that I learned is that you have to evaluate root causes of things. Sometimes I feel bad, and it's nothing to do with what's happening around me. It's because I'm having a bad hair day. And that tends to be the root cause of why I'm grumpy and why I don't feel good around other people and why I'm not as pleasant as I should be. And some of the root causes that I found we have to deal with what I call the fudge factor. Now, we're going to take the fudge factor on the negative side and the positive side of the fudge factor. And this is in your handout. And by the way, at the end of the day, I have some fudge for drawings. So you can all start hoping that your name gets pulled out of that basket. So one of the fudge factor things is fear. Whenever you're going to start a new experience, whenever you have something new coming into your life, a change, there's a little bit of fear there. Or even when you want to do something different, or when you want to step out of where you are, there's a little bit of fear there. And Mark Twain said, "I have experienced many horrible things in my lifetime, a few of which actually happened." So what does that tell you? Some of the fear is right up here in your head, is it not? And that's what's going on, and it keeps you from stepping out and doing the things that you would like to do. So the affirmation here is, I will no longer be dominated by the fear of failure, criticism, rejection, or the best one I have is looking stupid. Do any of you fear that? So, and you can see the young man there in the picture. He's kind of, maybe that's his first speech he's ever given, because you know the fear of speaking in front of audiences is greater than the fear of death. Which, you know, that means they'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. So what I want you to do is, in the fudge factor, kind of reduce the fear and say, you know what? I would like to try this. I'm going to step out and do this. So repeat after me. I will no longer be dominated, by the fear of. Now really give it to me. Failure. Criticism. Rejection. Or looking stupid. Because, you know, even a baby doesn't mind falling down, right, and getting up again. They don't think they're going to look stupid when they're learning to walk. So just remember that everything we try is new, and that your personality tries to keep you from going out there. Because, you know, when you were little and your mom and dad kept you out of the road, I think your personality kind of takes that in and says, you know what, new things, I don't want to get into danger, you know, I want to be safe. And so you kind of fear getting out there and trying new things. But it is the way to live with positive expectation, is to get rid of your fear. Now the next one is uncertainty, and it's related to fear. And once again, Mark Twain said, why not go out on a limb? That's where the fruit is. Okay? Everyone knows that. When I was growing up, I used to pick cherries. You know, they didn't have child labor laws, and you could actually work. And I used to pick the cherries in the cherry orchard, and you know what? The best cherries were way out on the limb. They weren't close in. So why not go out on a limb? But what I'd like to tell you is that you have to calculate. You have to take a calculated risk. In other words, how much do I weigh today? And then you have to say, we're not going to ask anyone, okay? And then you say, well, how much, you know, this limb, how strong is it? You know, how's it going to work? And so you take a calculated risk when you do that. And uncertainty is something, the other thing about growing up, I grew up in Idaho, and in the wintertime you have fog. And what I learned is in the fog, you have to inch forward. You have to go forward. So when you feel uncertain about something, just inch forward. You know, because you can see a little bit ahead of you in the fog, not far, but you can see. So just inch forward. So here's our affirmation. When faced with uncertainty, repeat after me, when faced with uncertainty, I take a step forward and self-correct. And you understand the principle of self-correction, right? Because they tell us that a plane that is flying to Honolulu or Chicago or New York, it doesn't really matter, it's off course about 95% of the time. What happens is it gets off course and self-corrects, gets off course and self-corrects, gets off course and self-corrects. Do you see how magnificent that is? We can self-correct. We can take a step forward even if we're uncertain or even if we have fears of doing what we want to do, and we can self-correct. That is a magic miracle in our lives. Because you know, you don't have to be the same person every single morning when you get up. Did you realize that? Every single morning is a new day. And when you get up, you can be a different person. You can be whoever you want to be that day. Now that could get dangerous, right? But you have a new day every single morning. Now the next one in our fudge factor is doubt. And I got to tell you, when I was growing up, oh, I loved the story of Peter Pan. It was my favorite fairy tale. I thought it was so intriguing to have a clock and a crocodile, and to have Captain Hook, and to have Wendy and Peter flying through the skies. I just thought it was magical. And so then I came on this quote by J.M. Barrie, who was a creator of Peter Pan, and he said, "The moment you doubt whether you can fly, you cease to do it forever." And I go, I will never fly. And of course, then William Shakespeare says, "Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win, but fearing to attempt." So you see how these three fudge factors of fear, uncertainty, and doubt keep us from going forward and perhaps living in the most positive way that we could live. So the last one is, or the next to the last one is grumpiness. The G in the fudge factor is just, you know, grumpy. Do you always see the clouds, the dark clouds, or do you see the sunshine and what's happening there? So as we look at that, I read on this quote by a man, L. Tom Perry, and he said, "No misfortune is so bad that whining about it won't make it worse." I have that pasted on my computer, so I can see that all the time. So here is our affirmation. Don't walk away from negative people. Run. So repeat that with me, because I want that to go into your brains, okay? Don't walk away from negative people. Run. Okay. Now the last one is envy. And I think envy is quite a significant thing in our lives, because it's so easy to look at people who, and what happens is we compare our worst to their best. You know, just think of getting up in the morning and how you look in the morning. Can you kind of get a visual of that? And then you compare yourself when you get up in the morning to the people on the stand in the front of the magazines that are beautiful, that have been into their makeup artist for 3 hours, and they're in this photo shoot for 2 hours, getting the best angle of who they are. See, what we do is we compare us at our worst to them at their best. And we're not going to do that anymore, okay? I like this quote. Oh, I like that. Okay. We're not going to do that anymore, are we? No. I like this quote from Dustin Hoffman. He says, "I envy people who can just look at a sunset." Do you have that ability to just kind of relax and kind of let it go? He says, "I'm always wondering what the best angle is to make the shot." So his mind was always going, and he really envied people that could just relax. And maybe that is a good envy. But I like what Carrie Fisher said. She says, "Envy is like drinking poison and then waiting for the other person to die." That's a great lesson for us all to take. So the affirmation here is, I will never compare my worst to their best. Repeat after me. I will never compare my worst to their best.